friends, I'm Liz.
I'm Robby. Welcome back to our channel Bookworm Couple. Today we are going to be talking about the 7th episode of the Percy Jackson and the Olympians TV series on Disney Plus, titled We Find Out the Truth, Sort of.
Classic.
Yeah, I liked this episode much better than the last one. I guess I'll just start off by saying that.
I kind of went back and forth throughout the
really?
episode. I was like, what? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked the end.
The ending? Which, like, the last shot with them on the beach, or?
Yeah, but I would say the last quarter of the episode I really loved.
Cool, okay.
I liked the rest of it, I was kind of being like,
Really? What parts of it did you not enjoy?
I think I was a little thrown off by the underworld in Hades.
That's
and it
true.
was not in a bad way. It was just like, it wasn't what I was expecting, so it took me a minute to be like, okay,
yeah.
cool, here's this.
Mm-hmm.
Let me take this in without expectation. You know,
Sure.
I feel like sometimes when you know something or have a particular image, I am someone who very much envisions things, and obviously once they're put into media, I'm not in charge, so someone else has an idea.
That's crazy, why not?
A lot of times it's exactly what I pictured and assumed, but most of the time it's not, which is fun, and I like that, but like, I always have to be like, okay, erase that, come back at it with fresh eyes. So
sure.
that's kind of where I was.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, there were, it's not my favorite episode, I don't think. I think it was good, though. There were a few things that I really, really liked about the episode, and there were some things that I thought were kind of strange.
Yeah, I don't really like about the episode. Medium.
I felt higher than medium. Okay. Maybe it's because we're coming off something that I didn't like as much.
Yeah.
But there were, bits of this episode that I did seriously enjoy.
Oh, me too.
Quite a bit.
But it also feels like the things that I really enjoyed, we'll talk about.
Sure.
Weren't necessarily like valid in this story.
No, yeah, I understand. It's hard to
You
talk
understand.
about. I do.
We'll get there. We'll
get there in a second. Yeah, I don't know. I think overall they kind of righted the ship, at least a bit,
I
in
agree
my
with you.
opinion.
I
I'm
definitely
interested
agree
to
with
see how it ends. I still have questions about some of the changes that they made, but overall, this was definitely a step up from the last episode, and I'm relatively excited to see how they round the thing out.
We're very serious. We're
very serious. So they
They had some, which I guess, and we'll get into, I guess, kind of brings in the characters that they brought in this time around, where I was like, okay, is this where we're getting silly again? Because the books are definitely silly. They have some serious feelings, but especially in the beginning of the series, much more silly. Mm-hmm. This series is definitely much more serious. They're definitely taking a serious stance.
Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, that's enough hemming and hawing, I guess. So if you have not watched the episode yet, be warned, there will be spoilers ahead. So we're going to start talking about spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Starting from the very beginning, how abruptly they just ended up with Patroclus, whatever his name is. Sure. In the waterbed place, without any explanation of how they knew where to go, really. Maybe they said that in the last episode and I missed it,
I
but I don't
think
think
so
they
at all.
did.
I think they were just trying to move things along fast.
Yeah, and I've obviously read the books, so I was like, oh, okay, we're starting here. But if I hadn't read the books, I'd be like, what is going on?
Yeah, truly. I'd be like, who is this guy? Why is this? But I do think that the way that they wrote it was for someone who hadn't read it, where, yes, it was confusing at first, but then they laid out all of the story in a few lines. At least Percy did. He's like, you are this guy, you do this thing.
I will say, it again continues to be this thing they seemed obsessed with any situation they walk into, they immediately know. They're like, you are someone from, Greek mythology and you're a monster or whatever. And I'm just like, are they ever not going to know exactly what they're walking into? I mean, I thought it was, I guess, economic to make the waterbed place the entrance to the underworld as well, to cut out that other scene.
I really like that idea. I like the schmarmy? No.
Yeah, schmarmy.
Swarmy. Waterbed salesman. I thought waterbeds were the coolest thing ever when I was a kid, but I'm a Pisces, so I just want to be in the water. I don't think I actually ever slept on a waterbed. I played on a waterbed. I don't know that
I've never slept on one. I can't imagine sleeping on one. It seems like it would be so uncomfortable.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems kind of cool to me. Anyways, I think my one disappointment is, I understand what they're doing, and they've kind of set this precipice now that they essentially go in and automatically identify any of the mythological characters.
So
that
there's no
we
surprise
see.
for us either.
Yeah, which is a little bit of a bummer because I think if I were a kid watching it, if I were a kid reading it, I would be excited to be in on the mystery with them.
Yeah.
Even if I wasn't going to call it, which I literally never have.
Mm-hmm.
And even reading the book, I was like, oh, interesting. The only one I think I kind of guessed was Medusa. But that was like still barely. And so it's kind of fun to be along on the mystery and to watch these characters figure it out in the moment. And
also, because then they get to act surprised instead of just like, I knew it was you.
Yeah, and I'm wondering what I do wonder if part of that is to move it along fast, like in every way.
It must be, but it's just I think it's been like I can't remember a single time someone did get the drop on them in that way, that they didn't know exactly who it was right away. And I'm just like, that's like not even once were they surprised on this entire
Which I guess though if that's kind of what you're going with, that's kind of the precedent that they've set to go forward.
I will say the big one for me is that he immediately went, it's Kronos. And I was like, are you serious?
Yeah. Well, you saw him thinking.
Yeah, I know, but it just like, I was like, okay, great, fine, like, whatever.
Well, do you want to talk a little bit about the underworld?
Yeah, I actually I liked the Fields of Asphodel. I think that's where they were, where Annabeth
I thought the
visuals
cool.
were very beautiful. I thought that was really cool. I thought that Cerberus was a cute boy.
He was a cute boy.
Liked him. He was a cutie. I thought the fact that they even bothered having Chiron, who ferries the people across the river Styx, with the people who were newly dead, I was just like, if you're going to cut the scene where we meet him to begin with, I don't know. They could have just had Cerberus show up. Like, it didn't really...
Yeah, but that's like a part of the underworld, if you
know
the lore.
Yeah, I liked it for the most part. I mean, Hades is a whole other thing that we'll talk about in a second, but how did you feel?
I thought the visuals were cool. I think, like, that's what I would have envisioned the underworld as, like, a kid.
Yeah, for sure.
And kind of how I envisioned the way that they set it up in the books as well. I thought the Asphodel forest was cool, but I'm also a geek for Hades and Persephone lore and mythology, so I always love to see the different takes and interpretations on that.
Sure.
It was dark. Very dark.
I will also say...
emotionally dark.
It was emotionally dark. There were also parts, I thought, where... And I feel like this is a thing in a lot of media nowadays. It was also physically dark. Like, literally, the lighting was so low, I was kind of squinting at the screen sometimes, and so I'm just like... In general, across all mediums, I'm like, can we just, like, a little bit, please?
It's kind of hard to see.
It also, is obviously used to make it easier for visual effects teams, which, that's fair. But, I mean, like, there were parts where I was just like, what? I don't know what I'm really looking at.
Yeah.
But we got there. Yeah, I think Hades is a big change. I mean, not at all what I envisioned when I when I read the books. Not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I thought it was just a completely different take.
Yeah, and I think that was very much where I was like recalculating, because I was watching it and enjoying his performance, but having a hard time putting it in this world, because we haven't really had the gods be... He was kind of goofy.
He was very goofy.
He was definitely like a comedic relief Hades, which I like. I like that take on it. I like to not be so serious. But yeah, I do wonder why. The only other time we've kind of gotten that is like Ares was a bit goofy, like when we got it out of him.
I got more that he was just kind of like, Ares is not the most intelligent.
Not the brightest, but we got a little bit of like goofiness with him, but that's the only, at least that I can think of so far, God-wise, that we've gotten that has been a little goofy. Mm-hmm. And you even pointed out like Hermes
in the books, I always kind of thought was a little bit funnier.
Definitely a little bit funnier.
Played it very straight.
Very serious. Great performance, but like very serious. And so I think that was what, like with Hades, I was kind of like, I'm enjoying this actor's interpretation. I think this is a fun interpretation of Hades, but it was like, what are we doing?
Yeah, why?
Like, why was this the choice? It seems a little out of place. I really liked it. Liked it. I thought the like kind of nonplussed Hades was a fun take.
I liked him. I thought he did a great job. I was just like, I wonder why. The only thing that makes sense to me is it's just like, I don't know. I mean, why?
Why not?
Why not? The god of death doesn't need to be scary to be the god. Like, that kind of makes sense to me, in that it's like, I am the physical manifestation of death. So, like, I can be whatever I want.
Yeah, I also think there can be something kind of terrifying if, like, your god of death is, like, doesn't really care.
Doesn't care. Yeah,
so, like, that in and of itself is a different take on, like, being afraid of a person when you're watching, you know, their characteristics being like, whatever. Which is, when you are powerful, that's kind of a crappy attitude to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, overall, I really enjoyed his performance. I had a hard time putting it in the world that we've established thus far.
Sure.
But I liked it. I thought it was fun. I liked his robe situation.
Yeah,
that
whatever he was wearing was
like,
great. He had like some
highlights
highlights or something a little bit.
Yeah, like a green
nice.
highlight.
Yeah.
He kind of gave me like Beetlejuice vibes.
Yeah, he did kind
you know?
of. Yeah.
Not
like an
Beetlejuice
apathetic
the movie.
Beetlejuice.
Like, yeah. like an animated Beetlejuice.
Sure,
Like Beetlejuice the musical.
I'm not surprised that Grover lost one of the pearls. I mean, that seemed like it had to happen because that's kind of what happened in the books. I mean, I guess now we should talk about the other lion's share of the episode, which is all the flashbacks with Sally and Percy, and then getting our first like a Poseidon.
See, Daddy, Poseidon coming in. I was pumped for that.
I was very surprised. I liked that.
I know. I literally. It was funny because
really
they showed him walking, which is obviously the reaction you're supposed to have, because the shot is very much Sally in focus, and then somebody coming in the door, and you see him, and the whole time I'm like...
I really loved... I don't remember if they really touch on it too much in the show, but the way that she called him was the way that they like burn offerings for the gods in Camp Half-Blood, and I was like, that's a super fun Easter egg that I imagine
like, what is she doing?
If kids, like, even if you've watched the show, and I honestly don't remember if they really spent a lot of time mentioning that that's something that they do.
Did it like
but
once,
if you read the book, you're gonna know what she's doing, and I was like, that's a really cool Easter egg. I really liked
it. Took me a minute to understand
that
what
little
was
small thing. I was like,
it was the rain, and I was like, oh.
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, before we get into the scene with Poseidon, the flashbacks with Percy were so heartbreaking.
Oh my gosh.
And it was fun to see because it's interesting the way that information was disseminated in the book was like, I feel like much earlier on, and Percy does specifically talk about like seeing a flying horse at some point, and his teachers all thought he was crazy.
Yeah.
And so he got sent to different schools around and stuff. And I mean, it just shows it was interesting because it's kind of a passive thing in the books that they focus so much on how hard it is for the kid. Well, more of an active thing, how hard it is for the kids, but they don't spend too much time on how hard it is for the parents who have to raise a child alone.
Yeah.
And
well, Sally, the first thing Sally said to Poseidon is, "This isn't fair."
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, because it was also pretty jarring to watch her be like very angry Sally. Very angry
a perfect
and like
mom, 100% of the
not at all.
time,
And it was like a part of me that felt like, oh, like watching her do it, and then getting to her emotional. She's wonderful. I'm obsessed.
She's great.
Getting to her emotional breakdown of like she's had enough. Like this, she's so frustrated for this kid that she loves and is trying so hard for him, and you can't always do that elegantly.
And all he sees is her trying to like get rid of him.
Yeah,
which is
and it's
so
just like absolutely heartbreaking. Once again, please somebody write some fanfic, or like, can we have a Sally and Poseidon show? Soap opera. I'm in. I'm so ready.
But yeah, with it's just like a whole heartbreaking, set of vignettes, I guess, of Percy's past and how much Sally struggled to try and raise him, and the fun Percy getting to say "hold fast" to his mom at the end was nice. But I mean, the scene with Poseidon only just kind of doubles down on like how, like she says, it's not fair. And that there's no reciprocation, there's no responsibility there for the gods themselves. And I thought Toby Stephens was very good as Poseidon. Liked him a lot.
See Daddy in his preppy situation. Not quite as goofy as in the books.
Yeah, not quite. No Mariner's outfit.
No.
Which I actually took a second to think about.
But he was giving you like East Coast preppy sailor dad.
He was, yeah. He owns a yacht or something like that.
He definitely shops at Tommy Bahama.
Absolutely. I do think that the description of him in the books being like full on mariner fishing gear is kind of weird. Because I'm like, so he rules the seas and then also kills the fish by like fishing. I'm sure that's not what it is, but whatever.
They're just trying to be obvious.
Yes, exactly. But anyway, yeah, that scene was a huge highlight for me. I thought that entire scene.
Yeah, and I really think it made it pay off because like Sally's struggle pay off, because some of that I know it's like a preteen show, but like some of that was hard for me to watch, of like this mom struggling to keep it together and seeing how it affects her child, and then watching her watch how it affects her child. And I thought that the payoff was really, really good. It was beautifully done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Personally.
Personally, I think so too, and yeah, so I'm really excited for what's going to happen next week. And I mean, picking up all of them on the beach with Aries.
Yeah.
I think that'll be a lot is going to happen in next week's episode. I do.
Yeah,
I
truly.
do believe.
That's big moments.
I'm excited to see
how they do it.
See how they do it. Well, those are our thoughts on the episode. If you want to see our thoughts on the books, we are currently doing a read-through of the Percy Jackson series as well. You can check out a link to the playlist up here. And thank you all so much for watching, and
we'll see you guys on our next adventure.